If a time traveler brought a laptop to ancient Rome, history would explode. But what if the ancients built their own computers? In 1901, off the coast of a tiny Greek island, divers found a shipwreck. Among the marble statues and golden coins, there was a calcified lump of bronze. For decades, nobody cared about it. It sat in a museum, completely ignored. Then, it cracked open, and archaeologists realized they had discovered something extraordinary. Inside were interlocking triangular teeth, bronze gears, precision engineering that rivaled a 19th century Swiss watch. But this object was built over 2,000 years ago. It became known as the Antikythera mechanism. It took a century of X-rays to understand what it was. An analog computer, designed to map the solar system and predict eclipses with remarkable accuracy. It revealed a level of ancient engineering far more sophisticated than historians once expected. But eventually, science solved the mystery of the Antikythera mechanism. The math made sense. There is another ancient object that is far more difficult to explain. Because after 3 centuries of non-stop investigation, we still have absolutely no idea what it is, and the more we learn about it, the less sense it makes. It was first unearthed in 1739, buried in a quiet field in the English countryside. It was made of bronze. It had 12 flat pentagonal sides, 12 perfectly circular holes of different sizes, and tiny metallic balls on every corner. Archaeologists assumed it was just a strange paperweight, a random piece of scrap. Then they found another one, and another. Across Europe, more of these bizarre objects were pulled from the earth. Today, we have discovered over 130 of them. They are known as the Roman Dodecahedrons, and they remain one of archaeology's most persistent mysteries. The Romans were the ultimate record keepers. They documented everything: their tax codes, their recipes, the exact dimensions of their swords. If a Roman soldier bought a pair of sandals, someone wrote it down. But across millions of surviving Roman documents, there is not a single mention of this object. No drawings, no blueprints, no name. It is entirely absent from the historical record. Why? The obvious explanations were tested first. Some researchers suggested it was a weapon, a heavy object tied to a rope and swung in battle. But there was a massive problem with that theory. Bronze was incredibly expensive, and these objects were cast using the lost wax technique, a metallurgical process so difficult it requires a master craftsman. You don't spend a fortune on a master blacksmith just to throw the result at an enemy. So scientists proposed a new theory. It was a measuring device used by surveyors to build the legendary Roman roads. It made sense. The holes could be used to sight distances, until researchers actually tested the theory. None of the 130 dodecahedrons are the same size. Some are the size of a golf ball. Others are as large as a grapefruit. The holes are all completely different diameters. There are no numbers carved into the metal, no standardized markings of any kind. The variations between examples make the measuring tool theory difficult to support. Researchers found significant problems with several leading theories. The mystery was getting deeper. For decades, the investigation hit a dead end. Then, in the summer of 2023, amateur archaeologists in the English village of Norton Disney made a breakthrough. They opened a trench that hadn't seen daylight for 1,700 years, and they found a dodecahedron. But this one was different. It was in pristine condition. More importantly, it wasn't dropped by accident. It had been deliberately buried, carefully placed in the earth alongside 4th century Roman pottery. Someone had intentionally hidden it. But why? A new clue emerged, and it completely changed the direction of the investigation. Researchers mapped the location of every single dodecahedron ever found. And they noticed something bizarre. The Roman Empire was centered in Italy. Rome was the heart of all wealth, religion, and military power. Yet, not a single dodecahedron has ever been found in Italy. Every single one was discovered in the northern provinces. Gaul, Britain, Germany. The very edge of the civilized world. Why would a highly advanced Roman artifact only exist where the Romans bordered other cultures? This geographic pattern led researchers to consider another possibility. These outer provinces were originally controlled by the Celts, a culture deeply rooted in astronomy and local rituals. The Celts generally didn't pass down written records. They passed their knowledge verbally. Some researchers began wondering whether these clues pointed in a new direction. Some scholars have suggested the object may reflect both Roman craftsmanship and local Celtic traditions. Some astronomers now propose it was an agricultural calendar. If you align the varying holes with the angle of the sun, you might be able to predict the optimal day to plant winter crops. In the cold, unpredictable north, knowing exactly when to plant was crucial. That could explain why it was so valuable, why it was crafted with such precision, why it wasn't needed in the sunny climate of Italy. It seems like a strong possibility. But wait, this raises another difficult question. If it was just an agricultural calendar, why are there no writings about it? And why were some found inside the graves of wealthy women? You don't usually bury a wealthy aristocrat with a farming tool. Another possibility has been proposed. In the 4th century, the Roman Empire adopted Christianity. As Christianity spread, some traditional pagan practices faced increasing pressure and suppression. Some researchers have wondered whether changing religious conditions could explain why certain examples were intentionally buried. Did the owner in Norton Disney hide it in the dark to avoid suspicion? To protect a sacred object from a changing world? The Roman Dodecahedron forces us to confront an important reality about history. We think we know the past because we read the books left behind. We judge ancient civilizations by the temples that survived. But some of the most fascinating artifacts come with no instructions. For 300 years, the greatest minds in science have studied this 12-sided piece of metal. It sits in museums, silently challenging what we know. We still do not know its purpose. No surviving Roman text explains it. Archaeologists continue to debate its function. The mystery remains unresolved. Maybe the world is stranger than we think.